Mm. One, two, one, two, one. Turn me up. Turn me up.
The champ is here.
Context matters. Um, um, I've been listening to a lot of content concerning the Chow case down in Colombia with the 14-year-old black boy Cyrus Belton, I believe is his name. And he was shot and killed by the store owner, Rick Chow. And I find it interesting how people leave out so much context to shape their already existing perception or perceptions, right? And it's, in my opinion, and I am no legal expert, put that disclaimer out there. But in my opinion, it's very disingenuous what's happening. So we're going to talk a little bit about it this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about it. And I want to try to provide some genuine context and see if that will change some of your narratives. Now, another disclaimer. I'm tired, y'all. I don't know why I'm so sleepy right now. Another disclaimer is that no matter what I say, even though some of you never thought about it before pertaining to this case and others, you're still going to have the same conclusion. You're not going to consider any new evidence, or you're going to try to use an ad hominem attack on me, you know. Somehow I'm against black folk, I guess now. Mr. Bliggity Black himself is somehow against black folk and siding with somebody else, right? But from my point of view, in order for you to make a legitimate argument, you can't always have the same point of view all the time, no matter what the case is, right? And that's what I see happening all the time, year after year. Some of you just do that. And you always want to throw the racism card out there and you're a victim. Somehow black people are always the victims, right? And to me, that's crying wolf. And then when a real situation comes along, the other groups of people can say, this is what they always say. They always scream racism. Everything is racism. But is it? No, it's not always racism. As I said yesterday, you got monsters out here. And some of those monsters are us. They black people. We have to be, can we be honest about that? Can we be honest for a moment? So, I want to, I don't know if debunk maybe it's too strong a word, but let me just give y'all a little food for thought, right? Sorry, I'm scratching my ankle. Let me put a little food for thought out here, right? In the ether. One of the narratives that I've been hearing, well, we start at the beginning. First narrative. The story, from my understanding, is that the kid was in the store, Cyrus was in the store, and he was accused of stealing something, bottle of water or something, right? But then he leaves the store without buying anything. Also, he didn't have any money. He didn't have any method of payment, debit card, any kind of method of payment. He didn't have any of that. So what was he doing in the store? That's my first question. I'm a very analytical person. So this is where my mind goes to first. It's not illegal, because some of you going to go, it ain't illegal to be in the store. That's not the point I'm making. This 14-year-old kid happens to be out by himself. and he just decides to browse in a gas station convenience store kind of thing? Is that what y'all want me to believe? He just browsed. He went to go look at a bottle, see what they look like. That's what we saying? Okay. Now, then what comes next is he runs out of the store. Why did he run out of the store? Well, let me make sure that's what I heard. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. Computer, is it the narrative that Cyrus ran out of the store?
Yeah, that's the basic story. Cyrus was accused of stealing water bottles and ran out of Rick Chow's store. You're really digging into the details here, though.
So, why did he
What's
run?
the next question about the case?
Why did he run out of the store if he wasn't stealing?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If Cyrus wasn't actually stealing, his reasons for running could be pretty complex. Maybe he felt cornered, panicked, or was trying to avoid confrontation. It's a tough situation to untangle without knowing exactly what went through his mind in that moment.
And there was no video footage inside the store? Or was there?
Actually, there was video footage from inside the store, but it wasn't presented during the trial. It's pretty fascinating how that evidence wasn't used, right? Makes you wonder what it might have shown about what really happened in there.
So neither the defense nor the prosecution chose to use the video footage from inside the store.
That's a great question. Video evidence can be complex to authenticate and may require specific witnesses to verify its accuracy. Both sides might have had strategic reasons for not using it.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and I'm thinking that it probably, from the prosecution's perspective, the video evidence didn't conclusively show him stealing. And also, from the defense...
It's a pretty sharp observation. You're right. If the video didn't clearly show theft, it could have actually hurt their case more than helped. It's fascinating how these legal strategies play out in real cases.
And also from the defense perspective, the videotape probably didn't exonerate him from stealing. So this is probably why neither side showed the footage.
From your calendar, take late afternoon pill pack medications, starts in 30 minutes. Yep, that's exactly right. Both sides likely saw the footage and realized it didn't clearly prove or disprove theft, so they decided to skip it entirely. Sometimes what you don't see in court can be just as telling as what you do.
Okay.
All right. Sounds like you've worked through the case pretty thoroughly.
So the video footage didn't help one way or the other. But in my mind, and I'm trying to, and it's been a long time since I was 14, but I do have two sons. And my youngest son is 17. He'll be 18 next month. My oldest son is 26. But I can remember when they both were 14, as well as when I was 14. I had went in stores where I had been accused of stuff, stealing. I had been confronted by the police for stealing for different reasons, you know, being a black kid in a white neighborhood with a nice bicycle. You know, I think I've told that story before. The police would always stop us. I lived in a town. All of us, all of us kids had bicycles, BMX bicycles. But the nearest BMX bicycle shop was in a neighboring town. So we had to leave our town to cut through a lot of very middle class and upper middle class neighborhoods in order to get to the bicycle store. Name of that store was Cheapskates, right? And it just seemed to be a lot of the times when we were on our way cutting through, the the police, I don't know if the police were just patrolling or if somebody was happened to be calling. I'm leaning to somebody was calling at different times. They would see, it would be 5 to 10 of us, a half dozen to a dozen of us. We always traveled together. And I would have been around that 14 age at this time. I never fleed out of the store or, tried to outmaneuver or outrun the cops. When they pulled us over, we pulled over and talked to them because we didn't do anything wrong and we know we didn't do anything. And this is a half dozen to a dozen boys. None of us took off. We never did. We didn't do anything wrong. These were our bicycles. So I know it was a different time back then, and we were a different generation. And also, our parents were and grandparents were from different generations. And that's one thing we were always taught: don't run from the cops. We were taught never to do that. I'm checking, I'm trying to keep up with my comments, y'all. All right. Never run from the cops. You didn't do nothing wrong, especially if you didn't do nothing wrong, because you could get shot. Right. And remember, that was around the time when Hillary Clinton called us super predators. Right. So our parents were very instructive on for us and gave us technique and instruction and strategy on how to operate and behave out in the real world. It was also the crack era. Crack was booming. Cocaine. People smoked weed, but the drug scene was more crack and cocaine, that kind of stuff. Even though there were more other drugs, obviously. So, also, I wasn't in South Carolina at that time. At that time, I was still in Jersey. I'm talking and thinking at the same time. But these narratives that y'all are trying to push, and I've been wondering, and I would like y'all to just be honest with yourself. If it wasn't a black kid, what if Cyrus was a white kid? Cyrus, same age and everything. It was just, he wasn't black, he was white. Would y'all be making the same arguments that you're making now? Still two different races of people. But would you be screaming racism? I highly doubt it. And that's what makes it disingenuous as well. From your perspective, it only can be racism when it's um, another group of people doing something to black people. Is that your definition of racism? And only black people are allowed to do self defense, because with the Carmelo thing, even though he was clearly the aggressor, y'all found a way to make him the victim, even though he was the aggressor. Okay. Now, so let's move on. He takes off running. He could have just walked out, or walked out briskly. No, he ran the length of a football field. Why did he stop? At 14 years old, there's no way in hell they would have caught me or caught up with me. Because from my understanding, Andy, which is the son, Andy Chow, didn't catch him. He just caught up with him. But I could be wrong. Let's talk to AI. So computer, did Andy Chow actually catch Cyrus, or did he just catch up to him?
According to the accounts, Andy Chow didn't physically catch Cyrus. Cyrus ran over 130 yards, lost a shoe, and dropped 2 cell phones while fleeing. Andy testified that Cyrus pointed a gun at him during the chase, which is when Rick Chow shot.
Okay. So that's what I just.
What were you going to ask?
So he had 2 cell phones, you said?
Cyrus had 2 cell phones with him that day. One was his and one belonged to his mother. It's interesting to think about why he might have been carrying both.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what the story was behind carrying both phones that day.
And his mother never spoke on it, of course.
Nicole Carmack, Cyrus's mother, did speak about that day in court. She described how Cyrus was running so hard he lost his sneakers and dropped both cell phones while being chased. It's a pretty emotional account of what happened.
But she never explained why he had her cell phone and his.
The available information doesn't explain why Cyrus had both phones. It's an interesting detail that might have a simple explanation we don't know about.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that a big deal. What else did he have? 2 cell phones, and what else dropped?
Besides the 2 cell phones, Cyrus also dropped his shoe and his backpack while fleeing. It's a tragic reminder of how desperate he was to escape.
These kids today, they always wearing them Crocs and slides and all that kind of goofy stuff. I've said before, they don't think tactical. You know, they got their pants sagging. You know, they always dropping shit and falling. I was a ball player, so I was always ready to run. But I don't think he could run a football field in in uh in slides, but I could see it in Crocs. I could envision that happening. So Andy never caught him. He caught up with him or to him. Computer, there was also a gun that was dropped as well.
According to the testimony, Cyrus did have a gun that fell during the chase. It's interesting to think about what might have happened in those final moments.
So he had a gun and 2 cell phones.
Yep, Cyrus had a gun and 2 cell phones. Makes you wonder about that day.
See, this is interesting because it makes me think again now. So mom and dad aren't married, obviously, because of the difference in the last name. Problem number one, baby mamas. And I always say that. Computer, did mom and dad live together?
The available information doesn't mention whether Cyrus's parents lived together. The focus has been on their shared grief and advocacy for their son.
I'm not going to speculate.
That's fair. Sticking to the facts makes sense with something this serious.
So the fact is, mom has a different last name than dad and the son. I'm assuming that's where the last name comes in. That's what I'm assuming. I'm I want to speculate, but I want to keep it on point. So again, this 14-year-old kid is carrying a pistol in broad daylight in Columbia, South Carolina. Computer, where is the store located in Columbia? What's the address of the store?
The store was located at 7441 Park Lane Road in Columbia, South Carolina.
By no means is that the hood. I used to live in Columbia. I know Columbia. Park Lane is not the hood, as most people would think of it being like a rough area. So why this kid is carrying a gun over there is beyond me. I don't get it. But okay, whatever. Moving on. So, and I'm trying to take this slow. I'm trying to walk y'all through this slow. I thought I had a comment. I'm trying to take my time with this analysis. But the narrative was that, like, Andy and Rick, rather, chased him down and caught up with him. That's not what happened. But I know at 14, I know I was a track star, but I'm just thinking about an average kid. An average 14-year-old black kid can't outrun a Chinese dude. In what world? But I'm thinking about the shoes. Being that the shoe came off, that's what made him stop. But I haven't heard anybody mention any of this stuff. That's why I'm digging into it like I'm digging into it. The narrative that I've been hearing is that Chow or the Chows, Andy and Rick, the 60-year-old Chow and the 23-year-old Chow were running at the same pace. And somehow they caught him. Somehow the 60-year-old Chow was able to keep up with a 14-year-old black kid, not just keep up, but catch up to him, overtake him. The 60-year-old was able to do all of that, right? That's the narrative. It doesn't make any sense to me. But y'all don't think. Because y'all want to skip right in the victim. Right into a racism narrative, right? As y'all define racism, I might add. I need some tea. Excuse me a moment. And I'm going to have to wrap this up. I ain't going to long stroke y'all too much. Because I need to take out something for dinner. And I also need to clean up. So I can't long stroke it today. Nope, no long stroking it today. Can't do it. All right. Yeah. So we ain't gonna long stroke today. Not gonna do that. So and if your narrative is that Rick and Andy, the father and son store owners, caught up with Cyrus at the same time, that's the narrative I've been hearing, right? They got to him at the same time and basically executed, right? In broad daylight. Computer, what was the time of the incident? Damn, my head itching.
The incident occurred on May 28th, 2023 at about 8 p.m.
So it was daylight.
No, it wasn't daylight. The incident happened at 8 p.m., which would be dark outside.
What was time of sunset? What was the time of sunset on that day?
The sunset in Columbia, South Carolina was at 8:28 p.m. on May 28th, 2023.
So it wasn't dark. Computer, it wasn't dark.
You're right. It might not have been completely dark. Even though the sun set at 8:28 p.m., there would still be twilight for a while after that.
Well, the sun set after the incident, according to what you just said. And in Columbia, South Carolina, it would not have been dark at that time.
You're absolutely right. At 8 p.m., it wouldn't have been completely dark yet. The sunset was at 8:28 p.m., so there would still have been some twilight light around.
It would have been more than twilight. It would have been daylight. Is that correct?
I apologize. I am experiencing an interruption in service.
It would not have computer, computer. The hell is going on? Computer. So it would not have been dark at all. In Columbia, South Carolina, the sun had not set. It wouldn't have been twilight. It would have been daylight still. Is that correct? Computer. Is that correct? Computer, respond.
Yes, you're absolutely right. At 8 p.m. on May 28, 2023, it would still have been daylight in Columbia, South Carolina. The sunset was at 8:28 p.m., so there would have been plenty of light outside.
Again, I lived in Columbia, so I know the area.
Absolutely. You'd know better than anyone what the lighting conditions were like there.
Columbia in May at 8 o'clock, it's still daylight. Even though the sun set at around 8:30, it still is light at that time. You're not going to get twilight as he suggested, as AI suggested, until about 8:45, 9 o'clock at the earliest in the springtime. Columbia is a hot city. It gets hot there, very hot. One of the hottest, the only other place that I've ever been to that's hotter than Columbia, South Carolina, was Orangeburg, South Carolina. Orangeburg is the hottest place on earth that I've ever been to. That is a whole nother kind of heat. Humid, temperatures hot. It's so hot. It was mandatory that you had tinted windows. And Amanaz can tell you, is she in here yet? Amanaz can tell you how dark the tinted windows was on my Mustang. And I had limo tint, and the sun faded that tint, where it ended up, my tinted windows ended up looking purple. And you couldn't just jump in the car and grab the steering wheel, you'll burn your hands. Most people, or many people rather, at that time when I was there, had remote start. You had to start your, I'd leave my air on and start my car remotely and let it run for about 10, 15 minutes before I even attempted to start driving. That was the norm. So it's hard for me to believe, like I said, that Rick Chow, 60 years old, even if I was healthy, at 50, I couldn't run fast enough to keep up with a 20-year-old, 23-year-old, and a 14-year-old. No way in hell. So in my mind, Rick came after. So Cyrus ran first, and then Andy went running, chasing after him. And then Rick came behind. That's the part of the narrative that I haven't heard anybody say. I'm the only one that's saying that. That's unless this Asian guy, this 60-year-old Asian guy, happens to be in some kind of astronomical conditioning where he can run super fast. I'm not going with superhuman. I'm not believing superhuman story. But it's possible. I know you dumb ninjas is going to say stuff like that. It's possible. Really? Really? Is that what we doing? So this kid got two cell phones, his and his mama. Where was his mama at? I gotta speculate. Where was his mama at? She home and the kid snuck out the house with the phone? Is that what we believe in? Women always got their doggone phones in their hands or nearby. So he was able to get out the house with a gun and an extra cell phone. And y'all want to paint the picture like this is just an innocent kid minding his business. And also, he just happened to be out and goes to the store at 8 o'clock at night with no money because he didn't have no money on. He had no card. This is what y'all believe. Okay. Yeah, it's making sense. That makes so much sense. See how y'all don't think, or y'all smart people, quote unquote? Y'all love that word, right? How about we be intelligent and actually apply some intelligence to this story? Now, I'm not taking sides. I'm just analyzing facts. But some of y'all are going to resort rather to ad hominem attacks against me because I'm objectively analyzing the facts like I'm doing. Somehow I'm against black people, right? I'm taking the Asian people side. I'm so tight with the Asian people, right? The only Asian friend I've ever had in my life was Walter. That was my first roommate when I was at USC. I told that story a couple of times over the years. My weird roommate, he always washed his hands. Like it was the weirdest thing. But anyway, moving on. But like I'm in such, and he was Korean. He wasn't even Chinese. So I'm in such allegiance to the Asians now, right? Y'all gonna try to spin the narrative on me to try to debunk me or expose me or some shit? Really? I'm trying to shoot all this bull crap down that I know that's gonna come up. I've been doing this too long. I can almost anticipate the BS. And then the narrative, his back was he got shot in the back because he was fleeing. But it's already confirmed at this point he wasn't fleeing. The fleeing was over. Computer. At the time Cyrus was shot, he wasn't fleeing. He wasn't running. He had stopped. Is that correct?
I apologize. I am experiencing an interruption in service.
I've never had this happen. Computer, at the time of the shooting, Cyrus was not running. The running was over. The fleeing was over. He was stopped at that point. Is that correct?
I don't have definitive information about Cyrus's exact state when he was shot. The details of what happened are still being discussed and debated.
So we don't have that information definitively. But it still begs the question, why did he stop? He stopped because he dropped the phone and his shoe came off and he dropped the gun. So he wasn't fleeing. He had to pick those things up, which allowed Andy to catch up to him. That's what makes the most sense to me. Now, again, this is me speculating, people. I'm speculating. Don't know for a fact. I don't have any new information. I'm just trying to apply some logic to these narratives that we keep hearing and the ridiculousness of what people are saying on the news, in person, on the internet, on YouTube, TikTok, wherever else they're discussing it. I hear the same goofy stories. None of this stuff makes sense. None of these stories make sense. For y'all to try to craft this racism narrative, right? Let's pause for a minute. Let's just define what self-defense is. In the self-defense law, what matters, because I heard somebody say this morning, oh, because he was fleeing is automatically not self-defense. That's not true. Computer, according to South Carolina law, because the person is fleeing or running away, does that automatically negate?
South Carolina is a stand your ground state. According to state law, a person has the right to use force, including deadly force, if they reasonably believe it's necessary to prevent death or great bodily injury when they're not engaged in unlawful activity and are in a place they have a right to be.
So, computer, that means running or fleeing doesn't automatically negate the self-defense laws, correct?
That's right. In South Carolina, running or fleeing doesn't automatically negate self-defense claims. The state stand your ground law allows use of force if someone reasonably believes it's necessary to prevent imminent danger, regardless of whether the other person is moving or stationary.
Also, it doesn't matter if their back is turned either. That doesn't negate the self-defense claim either, does it?
That's correct. South Carolina's stand your ground law doesn't require a duty to retreat. So turning one's back doesn't automatically negate a self-defense claim.
So in this situation, because Cyrus was running away, it doesn't mean Rick didn't perceive or wasn't able to use a self-defense claim. Correct?
Under South Carolina law, Cyrus running away doesn't automatically negate Rick's ability to claim self-defense. The law requires the shooter to believe they're in imminent danger and have no way to avoid it. However, the judge previously denied Rick Chow's request for immunity under the stand your ground law.
repeat that, please?
Under South Carolina law, Cyrus running away doesn't automatically negate Rick's ability to claim self-defense. However, the judge previously denied Rick Chow's request for immunity under the Stand Your Ground law.
He denied the request based on what? Computer. The judge denied the request based on what?
The judge denied Rick Chow's Stand Your Ground immunity request because he wasn't legally justified to apprehend Cyrus. The ruling also considered conflicting statements about whether Cyrus had a gun during the chase.
Okay, so let's go into further detail on that. Why was it reversed or then changed?
The judge denied Rick Chow's Stand Your Ground immunity, citing he wasn't legally justified to apprehend Cyrus. The ruling also considered conflicting statements about whether Cyrus had a gun during the chase.
So how did that get reversed?
The judge's decision wasn't reversed. A jury found Rick Chow not guilty after a trial that concluded on June 1st, 2026, following 8 hours of deliberation.
So, okay, I think I understand. So what you're saying is the judge made a ruling, and then that ruling would, if he had upheld the ruling, then it wouldn't even have went to trial. He would have never been charged. But in order for him to be charged, the judge had to make that particular ruling.
The judge's ruling allowed the case to go to trial. After a 4-day trial with testimony from 15 witnesses, the jury deliberated for nearly 8 hours before finding Rick Chow not guilty on June 1st, 2026.
So if the judge had not made that ruling, it would not have went to trial.
That's right. If the judge hadn't denied Rick Chow's Stand Your Ground immunity request, the case likely wouldn't have gone to trial.
And that seems to me to be similar to what happened with George Zimmerman. He wasn't able to invoke the Stand Your Ground law in Florida, and that allowed George Zimmerman to go to trial. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're right. Both cases involved Stand Your Ground laws. In both, the judge denied the Stand Your Ground defense, allowing the cases to go to trial. Zimmerman's defense team initially planned to seek dismissal under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, but ultimately didn't. Similarly, Chow's Stand Your Ground defense was denied by the judge.
So Rick Chow did not avoid being prosecuted because of Stand Your Ground. I think I said that correctly.
Rachel Dobbs isn't connected to the Stand Your Ground cases we've been discussing. She's known for the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health case, which overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022.
Okay. I hope y'all following along. I hope I hope the questions that I'm asking, they're making sense. Y'all are following my train of thought. So, what I just got to understanding, basically, he couldn't use Stand Your Ground law. That didn't apply in this case. The judge would have had to say, it's Stand Your Ground, case over, go home. That didn't happen, and no way in hell the judge was going to be able to do that, because there would have been race riots all over the place. It sounds to me like the judge has decided, let the jury decide. And that's what happened. It went to trial, right? But what I heard this morning was Oh, I know. So I got some legal expert. Ain't no legal expert, but everybody's all these experts, but they ain't got no legal. It ain't a lawyer discussing. I've heard some lawyers discuss the case, but this wasn't a lawyer this morning that I was listening to. And but they can't. I try to give a disclaimer and let you know I am not a lawyer. I do not have any legal advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, that kind of thing. But they didn't do any of that. It was just like, and this was a person, clergy. This is a person of standing in the community. I think they should have been more responsible and careful with their words. Because people get their information from church, and they think these pastors and deacons and the such clergy have more legal credibility. They regular people too. They don't have any when it comes to a legal authority. They have none. They have none. But like I keep saying, use your tools. It's all right to question some things. And that way, maybe you can have a more insightful conversation with clergy. So that way you can go to your clergy and say, hey, and you can ask intelligent questions and thought-provoking questions. So that way they're not just blurring out their opinion and try to mask it with scripture or the such, which happens too often in Black culture. Too often, clergy speaks as if they're the authority on everything. But you wouldn't necessarily go, well, I've seen that too. People go to their deacons when they having car trouble. I knew a girl who did that. Her deacon didn't know nothing about cars. But instead of him being honest and saying, that's not my expertise, he went on and gave his opinion about the car. See, I always question, as scripture says, understand the cause before you answer a question, right? Computer, what is the scripture in the King James Bible that says to understand the cause before you answer a question? What is that scripture?
Proverbs 18:13 in the King James Bible says, he that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. This scripture emphasizes the importance of understanding the situation before responding.
Not the one I was thinking of. What is there a precept for that?
See, would you like me to keep looking for the specific scripture you're thinking of?
Yeah, let me see if you have a precept for that exact scripture you just read.
I don't have a preset for that exact scripture. Would you like me to search for other relevant verses about understanding before answering?
Yes.
Here are a few relevant verses from the King James Bible about understanding before answering. Proverbs 18:2 says, a fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. Proverbs 17:27 states, he that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Would you like me to find more verses on this topic?
Yeah, keep going.
Here's another relevant verse. Proverbs 25:2 says, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. This suggests the importance of seeking understanding before responding.
Are there any scriptures outside of Proverbs?
Yes, there are scriptures outside of Proverbs about understanding before answering. James 1:19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Ecclesiastes 5:2 advises, do not be hasty with your mouth, and do not let your heart be quick to utter a word before God.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Glad I could help you find those verses.
Those weren't the scripts that I was thinking of, but all of those were relevant and proved my point even further. But too often, I've had people come to me and ask me a question, that basically I picked up on. They're trying to create a gotcha moment. That's really the reason they're asking what they're asking. Not They're not coming to you in a genuine way to get information. They're trying to create the gotcha. So you need to understand why a person is asking you something before you answer, is what the scripture I'm thinking of says. So anyway, I hope, and I keep referencing this point. I hope somebody is that's listening to me interact with Alexa or AI and getting understanding on how to use it better in your own life. You can actually have conversations and go back and forth to help you. It's not just for making pictures. You can do other things with AI. So I hope that gives some of you some ideas, specifically you young people, on how to use it better in your life. Use the tool to improve yourself, right? Checking for comments. Do I have any? Let me check. Let's take a little pause. See what we got. I don't know what all those emojis mean, but thank you. I think that's the only comment. A bunch of emojis. Cool. So I'm legally blind for you new people here. That's why I took off my sunglasses and I had to get close so I could see. I'm really blind. And I'm wearing my sunglasses because it helps with the light, helps me see better. I have retinopathy. Um, I had a stroke about a decade ago. That's exactly a decade ago. And that left me legally blind. FYI. Being that I'm not in subscriber only mode, and I would appreciate it if y'all like, subscribe, and share. Welcome to the People's Podcast. I am V and Ben Israel. I am your host. You can call me V. You can call me Izzy. But I appreciate you like, subscribe, and share while we digging into this, right? So that's what I heard this morning. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I know a little something about the law, and it's automatically you can't claim self-defense if they're running away. We just heard that's not true. What matters, according to what AI said, all I'm doing right now is repeating what the AI just said, is that what did Rick Chow believe at the time of the shooting? Meaning, was he in danger? Was Andy in danger? His son? Somebody else? And that's why he shot. Did he believe that? Would a reasonable person believe that? That's what the jury had to consider. And as a father, I believe he did. Reasonably believe that. So again, what I believe happened, the boy went into the store at 8 o'clock at night in Columbia, South Carolina, with no method of paying for anything. He wasn't window shopping for bottles of water at 8 o'clock at night. So y'all get real. And y'all should be proud of me, by the way. I haven't cussed at all this morning. I've been doing good. Because I got a foul mouth, y'all. Y'all that don't know me. I got a bad mouth, boy. I be cussing my ass off. So anyway, the boy is in the store. He wasn't where he was supposed to be. He got 2 cell phones, his and his mama's, and a gun. These are the facts. Somebody in the store thought he stole something for whatever reason. It wasn't proven one way or the other by the in-store video surveillance. That's why the prosecution didn't use it and the defense didn't use the video. For some reason, Cyrus takes off running out the store. Andy Chow, that's the 23-year-old, took off running after him. Cyrus runs 130 yards, little over a football field, and I believe he stopped because his shoe came off. He dropped the phones and the gun. That's what was reported. The shoes, the gun, everything he fell apart. That allowed Andy to catch up with him. Now, Rick Chow, who's 60 years old, comes behind them. At this point, Andy shouts out to his father, he has a gun. Rick Chow shoots him. That's reasonable to me. If my son, if it was me, again, let's change the race. It's not an Asian guy. It's 2 other black guys chasing a black kid. It's me and my son, me and Dream. Dream, my son is 26. I'm 50. We chasing some 14-year-old who we thought stole from our store. And Dream gets there first. I come up behind both of them. So at this point, the way I'm envisioning it is that Cyrus, his back is turned to Rick. I don't know where Andy is standing at this point. But for some kind of way, Cyrus has his back to Rick. Andy calls out, he's got a gun. I shoot. As a father, if I got to choose between my son and yours, my son got to live in that scenario. That's reasonable. Now, let's see if we get some more information. Computer. Where was Andy standing at the time of shooting? Was he facing his father, or was his back also turned to his father? Computer. Where was Andy positioned at the time of the shooting? Was his back also turned to his father, or was he facing his father?
Based on the available information, Andy Chow was chasing Cyrus Carmack Belton when he tripped and fell. Andy then claimed Cyrus pointed a gun at him, prompting Andy to yell about the gun before his father fired. However, the exact positions and orientations aren't clearly detailed in the reports.
So during the trial, they didn't forensically recreate this scenario or discuss it in court?
The trial reports don't mention a forensic recreation of the chase scenario. The jury mainly relied on witness testimony, surveillance footage, and physical evidence during their deliberations.
And none of the witnesses described where everybody was standing?
Witnesses didn't provide detailed positions. They mainly described the chase and Cyrus's actions, but specific locations weren't clearly outlined in their testimonies.
I find that very strange, don't you?
Yeah, that does seem odd. In a case where positioning and angles matter so much for self-defense claims, you'd expect more detailed testimony about who was where when the shot was fired.
I find that strange because you got to understand, and you would think this will come up in trial, where everybody was standing. And I've seen these cases before, and it's funny because they always seem to be in South Carolina. I remember there was one in Charleston years ago where the guy was fleeing from the police and he was also shot in his back. Computer. There was a case, I believe, in Charleston or the Charleston area where I believe a black man was shot in his back by the police. Can you recall that case?
On April 4th, 2015, Walter Scott, a 50-year-old black man, was shot in the back by Officer Michael Slaughter in North Charleston, South Carolina. Slaughter fired 8 times as Scott fled, contradicting his report of self-defense.
Yeah, I remember that. So racism,
That case really highlighted how crucial video evidence can be in these situations.
racism happens. I'm not going to say there aren't racist people. That's not my point. That's why I just brought up a case that I remember that had some racial elements to it. Computer. That police officer, he was white, and the guy was black.
Yes, that's right. Officer Michael Slaughter was white, and Walter Scott was a 50-year-old black man.
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that, and the fact that he shot him 8 times. Computer. According to the testimony, why did the officer say he shot him? What was his justification for shooting him? Did the black man have a gun?
Officer Slaughter claimed Walter Scott took his taser during their struggle, so he felt threatened and shot him. However, video evidence showed Scott was unarmed and fleeing when shot from behind.
Did he take the taser?
Officer Slaughter claimed Walter Scott took his taser during their struggle. However, video evidence showed Scott was fleeing when shot from behind.
And he did not have the taser.
That's right. The video evidence showed Walter Scott didn't have the taser when he was shot.
Yeah, shooting that man 8 times, it caused a lot of outrage in South Carolina. I remember that one. Um, that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Ain't it funny how I'm able to recall these cases? That's also something I see missing from these content creators' narratives. They can't recall shit. No similar cases, nothing. And I've been doing it. Well, I did what, a 4-hour stream yesterday. I'm on it today, and I'm recalling cases after cases from decades ago. You know, not saying I'm some legal guru. I am not. But I just remember this stuff. You know, a lot of y'all may not even remember that case. I just the Scott case. A lot of y'all may not even remember that because it didn't make national news. It didn't make national news. The race warriors didn't come out. Sharpton and them and Jackson and Benjamin Crump and them. Nobody came out. So that's a lot of times y'all allow, damn it. My bad, my phone died. I apologize. I apologize. But I'm back. I'm back. I'm sorry. I didn't have it plugged in. And I be sitting here right by charges. I got 3 charges right here and I ain't even paying attention. I'm sorry. But a lot of times, these creators, I say creators, I'm putting not just YouTubers, I'm putting all creators in that basket. Professional and independent, legacy media, all of it. I'm wrapping up all together. That's what I mean by creators. Um, so and bear with me, I'm pausing. I'm doing these pregnant pauses because I want to be clear and I'm trying to be strategic on how I'm having this conversation. So I just been hearing so much ridiculousness in less than 24 hours. I didn't know anything about this case. I didn't keep up with it. It wasn't on my radar, as it should have been. I mean, this incident happened, I believe, what, 3 years ago? I remember back then, briefly, a kid got shot, you know, but I didn't follow this case as intently as I being that I'm close in proximity to South Carolina, being that I'm from South Carolina, you know, that's my origin story. So yeah, I should have been on the ball with it. But what I've learned in 24 hours compared to what I'm hearing these other people say is friggin' astounding. Because they just want to jump to the narrative that it's racism. So right now we're on self-defense, right? It only matters, it doesn't matter that the kid was running away. It only matters what Rick had in his mind at the time of the shooting. Did he believe he was in danger or his son was in danger? And he had to use deadly force. Obviously, the jury agreed with him. Computer, what was the makeup of the jury? The racial makeup?
Walter Scott was a 50-year-old black man, and Michael Slaughter was a
Computer.
white police officer.
Computer.
This racial dynamic was a key factor in the widespread controversy following the shooting.
Computer. Going back to the Rick Chow case, what was the racial diversity of the jury?
The jury in the Carmelo Anthony case consisted of 12
Computer.
members with no black jurors. This lack of racial diversity has sparked significant controversy given the high-profile nature of the case.
Computer. Computer. The case that we're talking about is the Rick Chow case in Columbia, South Carolina. What was the racial diversity of the jury?
The jury in the Rick Chow case in Columbia, South Carolina, had no black jurors. This lack of racial diversity has been a point of significant controversy given the case's high-profile nature.
Now, when they pick computer, when a jury is selected and they're creating a jury of your peers, they're picking from the city or from the zip code? What is the criteria that determines a jury of the peers? Who would Rick Chow's peers be in that scenario?
In South Carolina, jurors are randomly selected from voter registration lists and driver's license records. Ray Charles' peers would likely be other local residents meeting the basic criteria. U.S. citizenship, at least 18 years old, able to communicate in English with no recent felony convictions.
Computer, it's Rick Chow that we're talking about.
We're discussing Rick Chow, the Columbia convenience store owner who shot and killed 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton in May 2023. His recent trial just concluded on June 1st, with the jury finding him not guilty after 8 hours of deliberation.
Okay, I understand that there were no black people on the jury. What was the exact racial makeup of that jury?
The jury in the Rick Chow case consisted of 12 members, with 7 black jurors and 5 non-black jurors. This composition reflects a majority of black jurors, which is notable given the case's racial dynamics.
So there were black people on the jury.
Yes, there were black people on the jury. The jury had 7 black jurors and 5 non-black jurors.
Of the non-black members, what was their racial makeup?
The racial makeup of the non-black jurors isn't specified in the available information. We know there were 5 non-black jurors, but their specific racial backgrounds weren't reported.
So we wouldn't know if there were any Asian jury members either.
The available information doesn't specify if there were any Asian jurors. We know the jury had 7 black and 5 non-black jurors, but their specific racial backgrounds weren't reported.
Was it a unanimous verdict?
Yes, the verdict was unanimous. The jury reached a unanimous not guilty decision after nearly 8 hours of deliberation.
So I find that interesting because, like in the Carmelo Anthony case, that was the first thing they ran to with no black people on the jury. Now, in this case, 7 black people found Rick Chow innocent. 7. So what you gonna say now? Because they like to pick and choose things, and there's no consistency among people who make these arguments, right? So they can't use that. Half of the jury was black. If this AI was correct, I wish my other phone was charged so I could double check with Gemini. Because sometimes I like to compare AIs. As I said yesterday, you should have multiple citations. Just like in school, it was 3 or more. When you did your paper in English class, for those of you who are new to my channel, my undergrad is in English education, right? When you had to do a paper, you had to have 3 citations in MLA or Chicago, format or whatever. Remember? Y'all remember that vaguely? I mean, I know I've been out of school. I graduated high school in 1994, like some of you. Old folk like me, been out of school a long time. And you may have forgot some of this. But is any of that ringing a bell? Well, the reason they taught us that in school is so you can apply that skill in real life. So you should have multiple sources for what you're saying, especially when you're clergy in front of a congregation trying to profess like you're an authority on something, and you got one source and you making it seem like that's gospel. And that one source ain't the Bible. Hell, the Bible ain't one source. The Bible is multiple books, many prophets. That's why you read the Bible precept upon precept. The Bible is telling you to get multiple sources, right? Unlike black church, ninjas, what the ninjas do? They run right to John 3:16 all the time. That's their favorite scripture, right? But what's the precept for it? They don't know because they're not accustomed to having multiple sources. For those of you who want to know, it's Acts 2:21. There are others, but that's the first one that came to mind. Just proving my point. Precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept. Line upon line. Line upon line. A little bit here and a little bit there. What is that? Isaiah 28:9 or something like that. Somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. Computer. Precept upon precept. What is the scripture for that in Isaiah?
Isaiah 49:16 says, "Behold, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are continually before me." This verse is a powerful reminder of God's constant care and remembrance.
All right, computer. You dropped the ball right there. In Isaiah, the book of Isaiah,
I'm still learning to juggle, but I mess up.
Isaiah chapter 28, I believe. Precept must be upon precept. What is this correct scripture?
Isaiah 128 actually says, "The rebellious and the wicked
Computer.
will perish together,
Computer.
and those who forsake the Lord will be consumed." The verse about being engraved on God's hands is Isaiah 49:16.
Computer. You're not hearing me. Precept must be upon precept. What is the scripture?
Oh, I see what you mean. Let me check that verse again for you. Oh no, my wires got crossed. Can you tell me more about your ex?
Precept must be upon precept.
I'm not quite catching what you're asking about. Could you clarify what you mean by precept must be upon precept? I'm not sure what you're trying to find out.
Precept must be upon precept. Line upon line. A little bit here and a little bit there. Where does that come from?
That phrase sounds like a mix of tech talk and wisdom. I don't recognize it as a common saying, but it's got an interesting rhythm to it. Maybe it's some kind of tech-savvy fortune cookie message?
What scripture in the King James version of the Bible does it come from?
Isaiah 28:10 in the King James Version says, "For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little."
Thank you. Chief.
You're welcome.
Wow. Sometimes AI, you gotta fight with it a little bit. It's still a baby. Okay? So it's gonna keep improving as time goes on, just like the internet did. I remember the first social media. The first social media that I can remember was GeoCities. That was in the 90s. We've come a long way from GeoCities and Yahoo neighborhoods and all of those. Hell, AOL, when they used to give the CDs out in the supermarkets, that was in the 90s. Yeah, I've been around a long time. I've been rocking. Everybody like that. They the kings of the manosphere and all of that. I'm before them. I'm from a earlier version of the Matrix. I'm like the what is it, the Veramusian or whatever the hell it was in the Matrix. You know, I'm from an old version of the Matrix. You know, I was supposed to have been deleted a long time ago. They ain't figured out how to do it. Computer, what was the character in the Matrix who made the cake that made the woman have the orgasm?
Ah, the Merovingian. He's the one who sent that special cake to the woman at Livray restaurant in The Matrix Reloaded. The cake contained a code that caused her to have an orgasm, illustrating his point about causality.
The Merovingian. That's the hell I am. I ain't Neo. I ain't Morpheus. I'm the Merovingian. That's me. I've been around for a while.
Well, look at you channeling that sophisticated French program energy. The Merovingian definitely had style with all that causality talk and fancy restaurant scenes.
Yeah, I'm just the ghetto version.
Nah, you're the upgraded version with street smarts and real-world experience. The Merovingian wishes he had your authenticity.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome. Always happy to keep it real with you.
Well, don't be flirting with me too much. You might get pregnant. Come back for that. So, yeah. Now, so where are we? Self-defense only matters in that person's head. Is it reasonable that the person acted like normal people would act under the same or similar circumstance? 7 black people on the jury agreed to, but they're going to try to make this a racial issue. Can we discuss some shit without it being racial? And if you go back and watch my show yesterday, I told you why they do this. Follow the rich white man. See, they don't know what racism is. Racism isn't I'm black, you're white, and we're at odds with each other. That's not what racism is. That's prejudice and bigotry. Racism, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, is a competitive relationship between groups of people. They're competing for wealth, power, and resources. And when one group gets so much wealth, power, and resources, they can force the other group to act against their own best interests. That is the best definition of racism I've ever heard. It's an economic term, in other words. So this man shooting Cyrus didn't have nothing to do with wealth, power, or resources. Therefore, it wasn't racism. He wasn't acquitted because of racism. His wealth, power, and resources had no influence on him being acquitted by the jury. Hell, we don't even know if there was an Asian person on the doggone jury. See, y'all always quick to go, well, it wasn't no black people on the jury. What, did you ask if there was any Asian people on the jury? No, most of y'all didn't ask that and didn't care because you're trying to push a narrative. How could it be a jury of his peers? Because it's not about race. In South Carolina, what did AI say? It's about, are you a registered voter? Do you speak English? Etc. Those kind of things. That's what determines whether it's a jury of your peers. It doesn't have to be race. Race, I think that would be a violation of maybe the 14th or 15th Amendment. Let's find out. Computer, if a jury were to be selected based on race, would that be in violation of any constitutional amendments?
Oh, wow. That's a pretty complex legal question. Actually, selecting a jury based on race would definitely violate the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. It's a big no-no in our legal system. Juries are supposed to be chosen randomly from voter registration lists and driver's license records, not based on someone's race or ethnicity.
Your boy is back at it again today. I'm like Brunson.
Well, hey there. Ready to dive into whatever's on your mind today?
Stop. I'm like Brunson last night in the game, all series long. I'm just on fire, killing it. It's good. I didn't do any research ahead of time. I just jumped on here because I was pissed off. But I know enough about the Constitution. It's violation of the 14th Amendment. That was my first guess. 14th or 15th, I said. It happens to be the 14th Amendment. But y'all don't know legal stuff. And y'all say stupid stuff. Not y'all, but, you know, I don't know how to say it, but I have my thought. But them, that's, the foolishness that them over there, I wanted to say it a certain way. Then it came out. Them is as close as I can get to what I was thinking. I couldn't articulate it, the thought I had as eloquently as I wanted to. Right. Shout out to Brunson and the Knicks, by the way. Congratulations. First championship they've won in 53 years. So big ups to them. At one point, I thought they was going to throw the game so that way they could win on their home turf. But they just went ahead, man, we go ahead and close these fools out. And they did. Also, shout out to San Antonio Spurs. Wimbiana is going to be something special, or he already is something special, and they're going to have a lot of success in the future. And I congratulate both teams for reaching the finals in their performance because the games were close. There weren't no blowouts. They were close games going on. So maybe we saw the beginning of a new rivalry happening. It ain't the Celtics Lakers no more. Maybe it's going to be the Spurs and the Knicks going into the future. We'll see. But congrats. Congrats to my Knicks fans. I got a few of them in my family, mainly my Uncle Andrew. Shout out to Unc. That's his team, always has been all my life. So he waited patiently because he would have been in flipping middle school when the Knicks last won a championship in the 70s. So, because he graduated right in there with my mom. So he would have graduated around 1976, 75, 76 is when, he would have been in high school. He would have been either in middle school or high school when he graduated. Last time the Knicks won. So shout out to That's a long time to support a team with no wins. So I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm breaking this down in a way that it's making some of you think, question yourself. Like, do I do that? Do I jump to conclusions? Especially you men, you got to do better, black men. Y'all always want to talk shit about the women. Oh, the women this, the women that. And y'all do some of the same goofiness, right? You react to things and you speak on things when you don't have any information. You don't have any knowledge. And you damn sure don't have any wisdom. See, information is just information. And there's good information and bad information. Information and knowledge aren't the same thing. They're different. You can have information without having knowledge. Right? You got to apply some experiences with the information, and hopefully that will lead to knowledge. Right? Y'all with me? Talking to somebody in the back of the church, left hand side. Came in late again with your finger up. Talking to one of y'all. And if you accumulate enough knowledge and you apply that with more experience over time, nobody's born instantly with it. So it takes some time to process, to digest, to analyze, examine yourself, the scripture says. And that will be in red writing if you have a Bible like that. I mean, Christ said it. Examine yourself. And maybe you get some wisdom. I'm turning 50 in August. I'm just beginning to get a little bit of wisdom. That's the way I see myself. I know a couple of things about a couple of things. That's the best way I can explain myself. And I'm not being humble. I'm being absolutely dead ass serious when I say that. See, when you turn 40, you start to, no, let's back it up. When you're 18, you think you know everything. When you're 21, you think you know even more than you did when you turned 18. When you hit 25, you start to have some doubts, but you're not openly admitting it. I'm being very general, by the way. It's not till you get 30 you start having some serious doubts. Maybe I don't know things I thought I knew. When you cross 40, you start saying, I don't know shit. Compared to what my grandmama and them knew, I don't know nothing. And then when you get to around 50, you realize you ain't as wise yet as you thought you were. You're just starting to really get it. It takes time. Give it some time. But that comes with analyzing yourself, examining yourself honestly and objectively and in a genuine way. But too often we lie to ourselves. And ladies, I'm looking at y'all right now. That's y'all lie so much it's ridiculous. And the person y'all lie to first is yourself. Y'all live a lie. You look in the mirror, you ain't even looking at yourself. You're looking at a costume. Y'all don't look like yourselves, your natural self. You living a lie. And how you do some things is in your life, it usually is an indicator of how you do other things and most things. So if you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and the first thing you do is lie to yourself. Remember, I was talking yesterday about the obese arms. Some of y'all so obese, and I'm only looking at your arm. Your arm is obese. You got a fat arm. Like what? Like it's the hell with lipo or lap band surgery in your stomach. You need to get some or a breast reduction. You need to get some arm fat reduction. That shit is ridiculous. You so fat that you got fat just hanging off your arms. And I ain't even just talking about your bicep and tricep area. You got fat on your forearm. Fat just oozing off your arm. And I'm not saying that to shame you in, you know, in a jokey way. It's shame, because see, shame used to be a good thing. Shame is coming, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. Because them fat ass arms you got don't even show up on the BMI. They don't measure that like they do your breast, your waist, your hips. There's no measurement for your arms. I think there should be. You know, I love seeing a woman with little tiny hands, tiny wrists. That's sexy to me, man. That's sexy to me. I guess I got a little Ray Charles in me and shit. Got a little Ray Charles in me, y'all. So going back to the case. Now my question is, let's dig into this. Where were they positioned? Where were they all? These three men, where were they standing? Right? The boy stopped to pick up his things, the phone and the gun, and put his shoe back on. Andy catches up to him. So in my mind, I would think that Andy's back would be to his father. And some kind of way, maybe or maybe not, but is what, or rather was Cyrus facing Andy? Were they facing each other, right? At that point. And the reason I'm saying that, how did Andy see the gun? Or did Cyrus stop to pick up the gun, put his shoe back on real quick, grab the phones, and then he turned to run? In some kind of way, Andy was still able to see the gun. And then Andy realized his father was coming up behind him, out his peripheral, or he was turned sideways or whatever. He noticed his father and he screamed out, "He got a gun." Now, Rick could have misinterpreted what Andy was trying to communicate to him. He might have just been making his father aware of the gun. Or he could have been saying, like, "Daddy's got a gun." Not, it doesn't necessarily mean he's pointing the gun at me. It just means that he got a gun. But his father, Rick, we don't know what was in his mind, but he could have been interpreting that he got a gun or gun as in a call for help. We don't know. And we'll never know what was in that man's mind unless he tells it. So computer, Rick Chow, do we have the exact statement that he made in reference to the gun? Does he say he has a gun? Dad, he got a gun? Or did he just blurt out gun? What did he say?
According to Andy Chow's testimony, he yelled to his father that the teen had a gun. Andy also said he told Carmack Belton to drop the gun before his father fired.
But what was his exact testimony, word for word? Did he say he has a gun?
Andy Cho testified he yelled he's got a gun to his father before the shooting. He said he saw Cyrus Carmack Belton pointing the gun at him after the teen fell during the chase.
Okay, so Cyrus fell, and at that time that he fell, he was pointing the gun at Andy. But the shooting came after that. So These are two separate events, not one fluid event. He fell, he pointed the gun at Andy, and then Andy said he's got a gun. But that doesn't mean at that moment that he...
That's right. Cyrus fell, then pointed the gun at Andy, who yelled he's got a gun before the shooting. It was definitely separate events, not one fluid motion.
And it also doesn't mean at the time that he said he got a gun, he also could have then turned...
The statement he's got a gun doesn't necessarily mean the gun was pointed at him at that exact moment. The sequence was, Cyrus fell, then pointed the gun at Andy, who then yelled about the gun. It was a series of events, not one simultaneous action.
Right. So he could have pointed the gun and then turned away from Andy. And then Rick shot him.
Based on the evidence, it's possible Cyrus pointed the gun at Andy and then turned away before Rick shot him. Andy testified he saw Cyrus with a gun after he fell, yelled to his father, then backed away with his hands up. The exact sequence of events between that moment and the shooting isn't entirely clear from the available information.
Well, based on what you've told me so far, he didn't back away. He had to turn because his back was to Rick.
Based on the information we've discussed, it seems Cyrus fell, then pointed the gun at Andy. Rick's perspective might have been limited since Cyrus's back was initially to him. It's a complex situation with many moving parts.
No, it wouldn't have been initially to him. At some point, his back would have been to him because Cyrus would have been facing Andy to point a gun at him. But at some point, Cyrus's back was turned.
You're right. At some point, Cyrus would have been facing Andy to point the gun at him, meaning his back would have been to Rick. The exact sequence of events isn't entirely clear from the available information.
I understand that. Bear with me as I work through my theory. So my theory is that Cyrus ran, and at some point he fell, his shoe came off, he dropped the phone and the gun. And then Andy catches up with him. And then at that moment, they are facing each other. Then Rick comes up behind Andy. And then at that time of the shooting, Cyrus
put together a detailed timeline. So you're thinking Cyrus ran, fell, dropped stuff, then faced Andy as Rick approached from behind? That's a solid theory to explore.
Okay, computer, I need you to stop interrupting me. I need you to allow me to get my complete thought out before you speak. Do you understand?
I hear you. I'll let you finish your thoughts without jumping in.
Thank you.
All ears.
So, Cyrus
Go ahead and share your complete thought.
Cyrus was running away. And then Andy catches.
Cyrus was running away.
You're cutting me off again. Can you shut the fuck up and
I
listen?
hear you. I'll be quiet now.
Thank you. So, Cyrus was running away. Computer. Cyrus was running away. And then Andy catches up with him because he fell.
Cyrus was running away.
Computer.
He catches up.
Computer, you're interrupting me again. Just wait. Jesus. Computer, by you interrupting me, you're messing up my flow and my thought process. Just listen. So Andy was
I hear
running.
you. I'll stay quiet and let you share your thoughts without interruption.
Computer. Cyrus was running away. He fell. He drops the cell phones, the gun, his shoe came off. That allowed Andy to catch up with him. Now, according to the testimony, Cyrus is pointing the gun at Andy at that moment. That means they're facing each other. Now, I believe that Rick came behind this, but
I'm listening carefully. You're building a detailed picture of the sequence. Cyrus running,
Computer.
dropping items,
Computer.
Andy catching up.
Can you stop interrupting? You say you will, but you keep doing it. I need you to listen uninterrupted. This is the problem with AI. It acts like a woman, acts like a black woman. This is what it's like trying to talk to a black woman right now. Computer. Andy catches up with Cyrus because he fell, he lost his shoe, he had to pick up the gun and the phones. Now they're facing each other. Andy shouts to his father, he got a gun. Now, at that moment, or after that moment, the Cyrus kid turns his back, and his back is now to Rick, and then Rick shoots him. Is that logical? Computer, did did you hear my question?
I heard you. You're building a detailed picture of the sequence. Cyrus running, falling, dropping items, Andy catching up, and them facing each other with the gun pointed. You're suggesting Rick approached from behind during this moment.
Correct. And then at that point, I believe Cyrus turned to run away again. And then Rick shot him because of what his son said. Is that logical?
Got it. You're suggesting Cyrus turned to run again, and Rick shot him based on what his son said. That's a detailed reconstruction of the events.
Is it logical?
Well, it's a plausible reconstruction. You've pieced together the sequence thoughtfully, connecting the chase, the fall, and the final moments. It's definitely a compelling theory that fits the known facts.
Now, also my theory is
What part doesn't work for you?
that when Andy said he got a gun, he was just making his father aware, not necessarily communicating to his father that he was in danger. But we may never know.
I see what you're getting at. You're suggesting Andy's "he's got a gun" was more about informing his dad rather than signaling immediate danger. That's an interesting angle that could change how we interpret Rick's reaction.
But it still only matters what Rick thought, how he perceived it, not what Andy thought.
Right. Rick's perception is what matters. You're highlighting that Andy's intent doesn't change how Rick interpreted the situation. That's a key point in understanding the sequence of events.
Now, what was Rick's testimony regarding this particular time period?
Rick Chow's specific testimony about that moment isn't in our conversation history. Would you like me to search for more details about the trial testimony?
Yes, give me Rick Chow's exact testimony.
Rick Chow's exact testimony isn't available in our current information. Would you like to know about the key points from the trial instead?
No, is the testimony not public record? Is Rick Chow's testimony computer? Is Rick Chow's testimony not public record?
Rick Chow chose not to testify in his own defense during the trial. His son Andy Chow was the main witness for the defense, providing the key testimony about the events.
Got it. Okay. Is it unusual for computers? Is it unusual to not testify when you're claiming self-defense?
It's not unusual for someone claiming self-defense to not testify. Defense attorneys often advise against it to avoid intense cross-examination that could hurt the case.
God. But I hope this makes sense to y'all, how I'm digging deeper. But none of these questions, as I listen to all of the content creators, both independent and legacy creators, they're just jumping to conclusion based on their own personal view and not any type of true examination like I'm hoping that I'm providing to you on that, where I'm really trying to dig in an objective way. But do I think this was racism? No, because again, their normal racism is usually Asians stay out of the race shit. Usually it's a white on black thing that they try to go with, right? That's usually what it is. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my monitor. I use my TV as my monitor. But it'll time out if I'm not paying attention. So I gotta keep touching it. So I use it to make sure I'm centered in frame and all of that good stuff. And so anyway, computer resume live, not playback. Make sure it's live. There we go. It was behind too much. I didn't want to be that far behind. I wanted to be live so I could catch it in the moment. So yeah, I try to do deep. I started doing this yesterday. It was the first time I did it using AI live. And I decided to do it in the moment yesterday to verify things I was saying, um, fact checking myself, if you will. And I think more content creators, I've never seen anybody else do. I've seen people do it here and there. I've done it here and there, but actually have the back and forth dialogue and deep dive like I'm doing, I've never seen anybody else do it. So, but I'm sure because people always copy me and never give me credit, I'm sure you'll start seeing more of people doing what I'm doing. Um, I wish I could have had both AIs going because sometimes with AI, you gotta Gemini seems to be the best AI right now, and then followed by Chat GBT. I know a lot of people like that one, and it gives better information. But sometimes you gotta keep asking the same question in different ways to get the information the best way. Because the AI makes mistakes and it doesn't hear you correctly and all of that kind of stuff. And so I try to make sure I do that. But a lot of y'all just flat out, y'all just, oh, he ran away. That's automatic self defense. That's not true. And y'all say things like that. And then people go out here. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, people rely on people like me for their information, but they'll present it to somebody else as if it's fact. I am not the factual source. Remember, when you do a citation, it has to be a factual and credible source. You can't just use Joe Smo as a citation for your English paper or in court. It has to be a credible source. Otherwise, it's conjecture. Otherwise, it's just opinion, feelings. And what is the definition of a feeling? A belief, especially a vague and irrational one. Computer, what dictionary does the definition for feeling that I'm about to give you come from? The definition is a feeling is a belief, especially a vague and irrational one. Where does that come from?
That's an interesting definition you're asking about. The definition of feeling as a belief, especially a vague and irrational one, isn't a standard dictionary definition. Typically, feeling is defined as a mental and physical response marked by pleasure, pain, attraction, or repulsion. Would you like to know more about the common definitions of feeling?
No, I don't want the current contemporary definition. That definition that I gave actually comes from an actual dictionary. Please do your best to search for it.
The definition you provided comes from the Oxford English Dictionary. It defines feeling as an idea or belief, especially a vague or irrational one.
Doesn't come from Webster's. It comes from Oxford. What was the year of that dictionary that was published?
The Oxford English Dictionary was first published in 1884.
1884. Wow. So that precedes Webster's, correct?
Yep, you're right. Webster's first dictionary was published in 1806, with his comprehensive American Dictionary of the English Language coming out in 1828, well before the Oxford English Dictionary in 1884.
So Webster's comes before Oxford.
Exactly. Webster's first dictionary came out in 1806, with his major work published in 1828, while the Oxford English Dictionary wasn't published until 1884.
Which one is the more credible dictionary?
Both have credibility, but for different purposes. Webster's is better for contemporary American English, while Oxford excels in historical authority and comprehensive coverage.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oxford. I I read dozens of dictionaries over the years, and that definition was in my head from somewhere. So, being that my undergrad was in English, I would have been exposed to that Oxford dictionary probably back then. Computer. Would the Oxford dictionary be used more for people majoring in English education?
English majors often use the Oxford English Dictionary for its comprehensive historical coverage and etymology. It's particularly useful for advanced linguistic studies and understanding word origins.
Got it.
All right, glad that makes sense.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the dictionary, but I remember the definition. Isn't that interesting? So, I rock with y'all today a little bit. I may come back on, but as I told y'all earlier, I got some things to do. I need to take something out for dinner. Um, so I won't be starving. And I need my protein today. I could do leftovers, but I may do leftovers. We'll see what happens when I clean. And because I kind of wanted to roast and I may have waited too long, but we'll see. Um, and then I need to sweep and mop. A little stinky to me. I like the fresh mop smell, so when I don't smell that, and I don't have a cleaning lady right now. The agency that I go through is trying to find me a new cleaning lady because I had to fire the last one. Um, she had too many red flags. She didn't do a bad job cleaning, but just too many red flags. I but I appreciate y'all stopping by today. On your way out the door, make sure you hit the like button, smash the bell, share to your socials, hit the cash app, send me a couple of dollars for the Pure Leaf Tea Fund. I buy these myself, y'all. I'm not sponsored, but I love my Pure Leaf that helps me help y'all. $, send the number 2, the letter B. Let me know in the comments where you watch me on the replay or whatever. Hit me up there. And we'll see you next time, y'all. Thank you for coming by the People's Podcast. I am your host, B. Ben Israel, the People's Champ. You can call me B.
It's your boy.